The US drug maker Pfizer has hinted it could raise its proposed $106 billion offer for AstraZeneca. Pfizer's chief executive was grilled by MPs in London today on his commitment to British scientific research and jobs. AstraZeneca said it would have to consider a compelling offer, but accused Pfizer of an opportunistic proposal and a ploy to cut taxes that risked its reputation. It also said a takeover could affect the introduction of new drugs because it would be hugely disruptive to its research and development programme. Surgeon Capital's Yannick Naud joins me again. Look, at the end of the day, it's going to be the shareholders who decide all this stuff, isn't it? I mean, it's always the same in a takeover, isn't it?
Yeah, well, the shareholders have yet to decide if the offer reflects the full value of AstraZeneca or not yet. Having said that, you have to keep in mind that most of stakeholders have to be involved. The company rely a lot on research and development tax credit, for example, and that could have a very negative impact if the government were to stop this kind of tax credit. The last thing Pfizer wants would be to have the British government against the takeover. Having said that, at the end, like always, shareholders should prevail.
Yeah, I mean, just in takeovers all over the world within regulated markets,
yes,
there isn't an enormous amount a government can do, is there? Because, I mean, you know, a company could promise something one day, take another company
yes,
over, slash jobs and so on, and then the government says, well, you weren't supposed to do that. And say, well, right, take me to court then, you know.
Well, usually the threat of intervention is enough. If I take a French standard, for example, back in 2005, Pepsi Cola, there were rumors that Pepsi Cola wanted to take over Danone, and the government threatened to do anything they could do in order to block that. It was enough for Pepsi Cola to go away. If we go back in 2010, when Kraft took over Cadbury, there was some commitment in terms of preserving jobs and so on. In 2014, most of the jobs that were supposed to be preserved are not around anymore. So even if you have some kind of firm commitment, it's very difficult to enforce them anyway.
OK, now we saw those Airbus results, and I know
yes,
you want to talk about them, and you've got quite a lot of time for the company, haven't you?
Well, I think it's a relief, really. If you look at the number, it's not fantastic. I mean, the profit are up, but if you do, like almost double, 93% up. But on the other hand, the new order are down almost by half. So all in all, that's a good numbers. There's still a lot of challenges, but the expectation from the investor are much lower. You have to keep in mind that Airbus underperformed Boeing quite a lot this year, and therefore any kind of good news will create this kind of big move, the big move up.
When you look at a stock,
yes,
like Boeing or Airbus, how do you dissect it? What do you look for?
Well,
apart from orders.
Well, those are very large companies. So I would think that for Airbus, you have three segments. You will have the Airbus, which is the civil aviation. You will have the defense and the space. Space and defense are not doing very well for different reasons. Defense mostly because European government are not spending in defense as much as the US is doing. In terms of plane making, it's pretty simple. Because there's pretty much two maker, Boeing and Airbus, so you can compare valuation between the two. And it's true that Airbus, in terms of valuation, is a bit cheaper than Boeing right now.
And also, most airline companies tend not to buy but lease these days, don't they? So there is also, you have to build into calculations the contract that the airline has to take with the manufacturer, which is a continuing account. How does that affect your valuation of a company?
Well, usually the risk is not on the airline itself, because as you said, the financial owner will be could be a bank or a specialized leaser. Therefore, you can those big plane manufacturers will rely on very, very large contracts. A lot of the big signing we saw from the Gulf, for example, like Qatar Airways, like Etihad or other big airlines. And all in all, we see that there's still demand for fuel-efficient plane, and Airbus is catching up. Obviously, Boeing was the first one to move with the Dreamliner. The Airbus A350 is supposed to be the direct competitor for this plane. It's supposed to be delivered to Middle East airline this year. There's still a lot of problems. There might be some cost overrun. It's still challenging, but I think Airbus should be able to manage this kind of delivery.
Yannick Naud, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
See you next week. There are more than 100 billionaires in the UK, and as Ivor Bennett